the water's fine, homie, jump into the deep end. Sow it, you will reap it. We're talking how to start it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Take a deep breath. You are now rocking with Founder Secrets.
Arian Radmand, welcome to Founder Secrets. We've got an exciting pod for you tonight, using robots to use AI to pretend like they're human handwriting. It's magical, and it's going to be a lot of fun to hear your founder journey. But first, the icebreaker is, what is a recent magical experience that you've had with technology?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. That's a good icebreaker question. A magical experience with technology. So I would say I had a really magical experience recently with a software tool I use called Capwing. That's basically like a video editing platform. So I do a bunch of these type of podcasts, and they have developed what I would consider a magical feature on that tool, where I can take video like this, like a podcast that I do, and say, hey, I'm interested in grabbing some clips so that I can share and promote this across social, etc. And they use AI to go through and magically grab a bunch of like really awesome sound bites, really awesome clips, and basically give it to me. So something that would have taken hours maybe before now takes like 10 minutes.
What's it called?
Capwing with a K. So really enjoy that. That was like a very, very like very magical thing that I discovered recently.
That's so cool. I'm going to have to use that.
Yeah.
Also, I think I've seen it before, but I thought it was pronounced kapung, but I don't think that's the right pronunciation.
I'm sure they don't care. You can pronounce it however you want, as long as you're using the product.
Exactly. Amazing. Yeah. Like my magical experience with technology recently has been using the Granola app. This has really changed the way we do note taking. Seems like everybody uses it, especially all VCs apparently use it for all their meetings. But we use it for sales meetings to get tips, using the AI to give us tips on how to improve, how to pitches very easily in that chat interface. Constantly blown away by it. What about you, Taylor?
I like it.
So I was talking about using some of these coding tools because I used to program as a teenager. I wasn't any good, but it gives you enough kind of lay of the land. Flavio was a lot better than me, but it gives you enough lay of the land that I understand the concepts, and none of that stuff has really changed. Like the languages have changed, but it's all the same fundamentals. Like programming's been the same for 30 years. It's all the same. Like it's all if-else statements all the way down. So I was using different tools. I was using Replit for a while. And then I switched to Lovable, but they both they go in circles, right? They just kind of spin. They like, and if you go like 6 prompts deep, they just go off the deep end and they just break everything. And they just introduce all these bugs. And then when they try to fix them, they introduce more bugs, and it becomes very frustrating. So my aha moment, or my recent kind of magical moment, was last night. I was like, I haven't used it in a month. So I opened up Lovable and I just started a new project, and I wrote a new spec for what I wanted just from scratch, and just forget all that code that I had in there. And it was a magical moment. So I wrote out the whole thing, and it one-shotted it. Like it actually built it, and it actually built an API integration with ChatGPT. Now, I knew what I wanted,
right?
Because I built it brokenly several times, but
right. It's
mostly like data enrichment. It's like these tools that I need, because I work a lot in spreadsheets, and it worked. And that was last night, and it almost made me not want to sleep, because that's when I get really excited. I'm like, all right, let's go build some more tools.
That's powerful. It keeps you up at night.
Yeah, that's how you know it's good. So Lovable, if you tried it a month ago and you're like, oh, it's crap, it's somehow has gotten better. They keep making them better.
It does get better.
Nice.
Yeah, honestly, I also did this yesterday.
Really?
I was on the phone with startups. My second phone with this guy's got a startup idea, and he's like, how do I hire engineers to build my idea? I was like, you do not need to hire any engineers.
Yeah.
Just get some sales. It's like, no, but what if I get a sale and then I can't build and deliver on the it's so easy these days. You can do it yourself.
Right.
Well, I'm not an engineer. How could I do it? I need to hire somebody and pay them. No. And he just wouldn't believe me. So we have this 1 hour call. And I'm like, seriously, just I'll do it. Just tell me what's your tell me the idea. And literally as he's typing, I'm just taking notes in Lovable of what he's trying to build. And then at the end, I just hit enter, like just one shot, one problem, no edits. And then I just send him the output. It's like, oh my God, this is exactly what I like. So now, he can sell. Now he's free to sell the product.
Real-time problem solving. I love it.
Because the product's now built. So
Did you take equity? You should have taken equity for that.
I know, right?
I'll
You
take
built this
equity
business.
once there's revenue. Just at this point, it's let 1,000 trees bloom. So, Arian, you did a startup before this one called CoachUp, and it was a very sexy business. Maybe you can talk about your experience there.
Yeah, happy to do that. So prior to IgnitePost, I founded a company called CoachUp. And basically what CoachUp is a marketplace that was connecting athletes and private coaches in every sport all across the nation. So that was kind of the whole idea. And basically, I was on the technical side there. So I partnered with my co-founder, Jordan, who was the CEO. I was the CTO, so kind of built all the technology. And then, once we raised a little bit of money and had the ability to bring in a team, led the engineering team for a bit. But the whole concept there is about one-on-one private sports coaching. And both he and I both had a very similar experience in sports coaching. My sport was sailing. I sailed growing up. He played basketball, but we had a very similar story in that it was our sports kind of fundamentally changed our lives in terms of like I went to school and like sailed to college. He went to Bowdoin and played basketball there and then played professionally afterwards in Israel. And the whole idea is, we were able to do that because we both ended up working with private coaches, but we just kind of stumbled upon them by happenstance. So I'm the only one in my family that sails. Nobody else does it. I got into it because I was bored one summer and my mom enrolled me in the sailing camp at the end of our street. And then when I really liked it, both of my parents were like, well, I have no idea how to help you get better. So they literally opened the phone book back when phone books were a thing and started calling local colleges and universities coaches there and said, hey, can you come and like help give my kid a lesson because he really likes the sport, wants to get better. So both he and I had a similar experience like that with both of our respective sports. And so that was kind of the aha moment of, hey, if a directory like this existed where I could just go online and say, I'm in New York City and I'm looking for a basketball coach and I got a list of vetted basketball coaches in my area, I totally know that my parents would have used this. And I know there's a lot of other folks that would have used it. So that was kind of the quick evolution of the idea, where it came from and kind of why we both embarked on that journey.
What happened to it?
You guys raised a bunch of money too. Like, how much money did you raise?
We raised a bunch of money over a couple of different rounds. So we started off with kind of a small friends and family round, like 50K, 60K. And then we raised a seed round. I think that was around like 2.6 billion. So we launched the business in Boston. I went through the Boston Techstars Accelerator. And at the end, there's when we raised our initial seed round. And then we raised a couple of other rounds. I think we went through kind of like a Series A round that was around 6.77 million, somewhere around there. But yeah, so I was there for about 5 years. We brought in an entire executive management team to kind of, take things over and run things. The business is still around now, so continued to grow, which is great. So both myself and my co-founder Jordan are still on the board of directors there. So we're not directly involved in the day-to-day, but we still stay involved and still help out. That was a super fun business. Definitely something that, hit home with both of us and meant a lot to both of us. So yeah, great experience.
That's so cool. You know what? I want to get better at basketball. I'm going to get a coach. Look at this. They're like $30 an hour in downtown Manhattan to get Noah to help me with my basketball shot.
$30 an hour?
Yeah, right? After 10 years of trying to figure out basketball on my own, I'm now convinced I need a coach.
One session and you'll be all set.
You'll be one shot at. That's going to get you.
I gotta check this out. Okay, so what? Oh, by the way, like you got like Steph Curry involved, which shout out, went same college. I'm sure he knows me.
He remembers you.
What?
Best
I
buds.
remember him. So
yeah.
How did you get like these high profile celebrities involved?
Yeah, so this is actually a huge credit to my co-founder, Jordan, because this is really something that he harped on and pushed on. When we launched CoachUp, this was 2012, 2013, so super early. So folks knew who like Steph Curry was, but he definitely wasn't the household name that he is now. And I remember having that conversation with him because Jordan, background in basketball, like very plugged in the scene. I know enough to be dangerous, but I don't claim to be the world's biggest basketball fan. But I remember having the conversation with Jordan and he was like, listen, if we're really looking for a spokesperson for the business, Steph's our guy. He's the best person we could possibly go after. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I've never really heard of this person, like not a household name. Like, do we really want, is this the right fit for the business? And so the interesting thing is, when I look at different brands and who they partner with, the most important thing is making sure that the story of whomever you partner with actually meshes well and gels well with your business. And so, to Jordan's credit, it was a great partnership because Steph's story was literally a story about the powers of private coaching, right? We were looking at other things of like, oh, well, should we partner with like, Kobe, or should we partner with LeBron, But the whole thing is, Steph's story has this element of non-natural born talent. Steph became who he is because he worked super hard and he got private coaching. And if you look at him, he's not this big, giant, imposing figure that you would look at him and say, oh, this guy's probably like a monster at basketball. So he got to where he is and he became the all-star and MVP and NBA champion by a lot of hard work and a lot of one-on-one individual work on his weaknesses to turn them into strengths, as opposed to someone else that we could have gone after, like LeBron, right? Who is like awesome athlete, but people look at him and they're like, well, yeah, he has a lot of just raw talent that it's a lot of just like born talent. So that was like the number one thing, is making sure, like, when we're trying to pick out and choose who our partners are going to be, they need to mesh well with the story of your business and your brand. And if there's not like a good connection there, then it's not worth it to pursue. So that's kind of the story behind the why with Steph Curry. And then
how does that work? Like, do you approach like an agent, or like how does the economic or like the math side of the partnership side work?
Yeah. So you do approach an agent. We actually ended up working with a contractor that basically exclusively works in the sports space, connecting businesses with athletes that want different partnership deals like this. So that was good. But you essentially do work with the agency. So that's the other thing I learned about working with big partners like Steph, is the team that you're going to be interfacing with is really more important than anything else. Because, it's not like we pick up the phone and call Steph and we're like, hey, what do you think about this idea? We need you to make this post. You're working with the team. So occasionally, like, we've done like photo shoots and things like that with him, but you're not interfacing with him on a daily basis. So what I actually learned from that experience is that it's super important, the team that's around him, what type of relationship do you have with them? How responsive are they? What's their motivation? And that's really the key to a good partnership is, if I pick up the phone and I have an opportunity and I need to, have Steph's team do something or get me creative or approve something, is it going to be something that's super easy to do and relatively quick, or is it going to be like pulling teeth? That's kind of the other component, the other side that a lot of people don't think about is, in order for it to be fruitful, you've got to have a good relationship with the folks around that person.
And is it like cash? And I understand you probably don't talk about the specifics, but is it like combination of like cash and some stock? Is it like straight up cash? Is it some like performance? Or how do deals like this, how are they typically structured?
I mean, the answer to that is honestly all of the above. And it really depends on what's motivating for the actual individual. In our case, it was mostly like shares in the business, because we wanted Steph to really truly be bought in to the idea and kind of be motivated by helping the business grow and create value. But, there's 1,000 different ways that you can structure a deal. Some are like part cash, part equity. Some are like all cash, some are royalties. So it kind of varies based on what your goals are, and then also what the partner themselves is looking for.
I'm psyched about this basketball lesson.
He just signed up. He's ready.
I just
Boom.
signed up. All right, on to the next product I can buy, IgnitePost. So how do you go from chatting with Steph Curry to making a robot that simulates handwriting?
Yeah. So a lot of the ideas that came into fruition at IgnitePost, I actually first had the ideas for at CoachUp, right? If you think about what we're doing at CoachUp, everything was about one-on-one, personalized, individualized attention. And I found that the folks that did the best, the pairs that did the best, were the coaches and athletes that had the kind of strongest connections, strongest bonds, and had the best relationships. So when I left CoachUp and I was trying to figure out what do I want to do next, and what are the biggest problems in the world, I tried to project out, all right, 10 years from now, if I'm a business, what are the big problems that I'm going to have to tackle and solve? And there are two major problems that I saw that were a problem then and continue to be. One is digital saturation. So everybody right now is saturated digitally with a ton of emails, push notifications, digital ads, you name it, on every device that we own, phone, tablet, watch, everything. And I didn't see that trend slowing down. If anything, it was going to get worse. So that was number one. And then number two, so not only is it getting harder and harder to kind of cut through all this digital noise and actually reach your intended recipient, but number two, when you actually do reach your intended recipient, it's extremely difficult to establish that kind of trust, that rapport that I saw in these one-on-one kind of coaching pairs. And so there's like this trust and credibility issue as well of, all right, like you've got my attention now, but what's the first thing you do when you hear about a new brand? You go and you ask your friends, hey, have you used this brand before? What is this? You go look online for reviews, testimonials. You basically trust all communication except for the communication that's actually coming from that brand. So those were kind of the two aha moments or the two challenges that really I saw. And everything that we've done at IgnitePost has really been designed to solve those two challenges of how, as a brand, can we cut through all this digital noise that's getting worse and worse by the day. And when we finally do cut through the noise, how can we make an impact that is going to continue the conversation, that's going to get somebody to give me the time of day, that's going to get them to take the call to action that I want them to, or even just respond to me so I can start that dialogue and start that
So what's the answer? Is it, you're saying letters have that effect?
100%. Yep. So did a bunch of research, right? So remember, as humans, we have evolved such that our monkey brains, our lizard brains are not used to this technology that we're on right now, like screens. The digital age is something that's very, very new to us as humans. We've evolved by learning about our environment, by touching, interacting, feeling, experiencing it, right? That's how early humans learned, is they experience their environment. So when you put like a computer screen or a phone screen in front of you, it's actually very foreign for us as humans to use. And it's not how our brains are wired to understand. So when you take something like a physical, tangible letter that arrives in the mail that somebody can physically pick up and interact with, there's tactile feedback. You can actually see it, hold it, experience it, smell it. It subconsciously embeds itself deeper in your brain, so it stands out more. So that's number one. So the whole idea with IgnitePost is to use some of those elements of how we have evolved as an early human to our advantage. So number one, it's cutting through the digital noise. So I didn't want a solution that was just another digital solution, because I already thought there was a big problem there. So the way that you can actually get someone's attention is in an uncrowded mailbox. But I also thought that there was a big problem with just general direct mail and general marketing mail. So the reason why most people call it junk mail is because most of it gets thrown away. The oft quoted stat is about 20% of direct mail gets thrown away without even being opened or looked at.
20%,
so
that's
there's
it? I would have thought it'd be much
that's
higher.
That's the stat that's out there. I think for me personally, it's like 90%.
All the trash.
For me, it's much higher, but that's the quote. So we'll go with that. But there's a huge problem there, right, as well. So the whole idea here is you're not just looking to cut through the noise. You're also looking to get people to change their behavior and stop this motion of like, I'm just going to toss this and not even look at it. So a handwritten note that arrives in the mail on your doorstep that is truly handwritten with a real ballpoint pen has that effect. So that's kind of the idea behind IgnitePost of how can we do this and give brands the ability to do this at scale so that they can reap the benefits of the technique.
By the way, I just sent myself I love that you have, that's a great feature to like send yourself a free letter. So now I'm gonna get one in the mail myself and see for free whether it's like, if I even miss it or actually see it.
Exactly. Yeah. By the way, if everybody hasn't done that, they should totally do that right now. Go to ignitepost.com and click get a free sample and send yourself a free sample. One of our robots will write out a sample and mail it directly to you.
It's great workflow because you have the free sample, which then once I send it, it leads to booking a demo page. It's like a very nice workflow. Like, hey, I gave you something for free. Now all I want is a little meeting with this wonderful human and Willett,
yes,
who may or may not be a real person.
She might be a robot too.
100.
Sure.
You call her, she will actually answer the phone. Yes.
Where's she based?
In California.
What?
No way.
No way.
Oh yeah.
No way.
The podcast yesterday
100%.
was all about taking Anda's job and sending it to Argentina.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But no, this is really, really nice. Well, go ahead, Taylor. You have a question?
So you mentioned this decision-making process about 10 years out ahead. You were looking at the trends. Were there other business ideas that you were thinking of too, or other trends that you noticed that you didn't act on, but you thought were interesting or still kind of tingle in the back of your head?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, so originally after I left CoachUp, so I always had this fascination with kind of the actual physical world, right? Like the physical world that we actually live in. So my original idea after I left CoachUp is actually more of a consumer product on the kind of attached to the social media side. And it was this business that it was called Turngram. And essentially my hypothesis was, as humans, we don't live in the digital world. We live in the real world. And we spend a lot of time updating our online social digital presence, whether that's, Facebook, Instagram, our profiles there. Super up to date, anything we're doing, like almost immediately we take photos, pictures, videos, post them up there. But if we actually look at like our physical space around us, like photos and everything that we have in our house, in our home that we look at every day, they actually tend to get outdated very, very quickly. So our online presence is much more updated than our physical presence. So I created this service called Turngram that would essentially connect to your social media feeds. And then based on rules and parameters that you set on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, would use those parameters to print and deliver photos to your doorstep to match whatever your preferences were. So that was kind of like my initial thought of like, hey, this is like a really good way to keep your actual physical surroundings updated with your digital life. So that was kind of like an initial kind of trial. Ended up not panning out. We, launched it, got some users, but wasn't going where I wanted to go. So that was some of the same kind of ideas that put me on the path to IgnitePost of like, hey, there's still something here in terms of actually sending something physically to somebody that gets the best emotional response, that gets people to respond in general. So is there a better way to do this? Is there a way to kind of pivot and change this and make this available for businesses?
Really, really cool. Also, you have a thing with names. Like you've got these names down where you just kind of name things and do them. Were there any others? I mean, that's a cool one. I think the hard part about a business like that, and I think about these things too. The hard thing about consumer businesses like that, where there's not a clear ongoing need, is that
right.
They might do it once, but then that delivery shows up 6 months later, and it's like, shit, that dog actually died. The first time something like that happens, that's the end of the service. And
exactly.
It's these like good ideas, but are hard to turn into real businesses or ongoing concerns.
Totally. Yeah, 100%.
So have you raised any money for IgnitePost?
We did raise some friends and family and angel money. I haven't raised any institutional VC capital or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, to get it up and off the ground, there's a hardware component. So we wanted to make sure that we had a little bit of cash in the bank to help us get started.
You're no longer raising. Are you profitable now?
We are profitable. We are no longer raising money. It's interesting. Like, I think certain businesses lend itself well to raising capital and raising money. I don't think this business is one that should raise capital. The reason being, so from my past experience, I truly believe that if we hadn't raised capital as early as we did with CoachUp, we probably would have made different decisions and would have eventually built probably the business in a different way. I don't know whether it would have been better or worse, but definitely would have been different. And that's kind of, I took some of those principles and I'm now applying it to IgnitePost of, the dynamics, unless you really think that you're going to, build a $1 billion business that's going to be able to return a VC fund. It's not really advantageous to immediately take money before you actually know what you're doing, and before you actually are using the cash to really grow. Instead, you're using the cash to really just kind of figure things out. So that was kind of my principle, is I didn't want to take a lot of money up front when I'm still trying to figure things out. And then now that we've kind of got that product market fit, we've got a good base of customers, we're growing, the option is still there if I wanted to take money, but now there's other options available that are just better to us as a business, to me as a founder. So my goal is to not raise VC money, but if we need to, we can have, we have other avenues of capital available to help us grow. And
what do you mean,
you can take debt. Yep. We've used awesome services like CapChase before, and Pipe was, I guess, kind of a similar service will allow you to finance anything really based on your sales and your subscriptions and things like that. Even now, like, entrepreneurs don't think about this, but just going and taking a traditional loan or going, using an SBA loan. These are all available now that you've been in business for a while and that you've reached that kind of break-even profitability stage and have things figured out. So there's other options available now.
So then what do you feel is like the next challenge or step for you guys?
Yeah, so we have spent a lot of time really focused on the technology, making really the core robotically handwritten note, really the core of our business. And so now really a lot of the stuff that we're doing is we're adding to our service suite to make, sending in orders and using the service a lot easier and seamless, kind of meeting people where they are. So we're working on a lot of integrations and ways to kind of meet people in their own marketing tools or CRM systems. And then two, the biggest question that we always get asked is, all right, well, how do I know how well this is working? How do I, do attribution? How do I calculate ROI? So a lot of the things that we're doing now is really adding tools to our service suite to allow people to do that, to track ROI, to track attribution. So in addition to IgnitePost, so at our core is the robotically handwritten note. And then we've tacked on some features to that, such as dynamic QR codes, so that if folks want to have an individual letter by letter QR code, we can actually implement that and tell them on a letter by letter basis exactly who is opening and interacting with their cards and at what time. And then you can obviously trigger follow-up actions automatically to follow up with folks. And then we're also adding we also added a service called AVID, which stands for Anonymous Visitor Identification, which allows us to drop a script on your site and identify about 40% of traffic to any page you put the script on, whether or not somebody actually interacts with or fills out a form on that page. So everything is really designed to give you a better overall picture of, okay, I've executed my campaign, who's actually opening and scanning the campaigns that we sent and are coming back to us. And then even if they don't take any call to action, they don't scan the link that you send them, call the number that you have, email the email address that you put in the card, and they just visit your website, we can also give you some visibility into that. So kind of everything works together to give you a general picture of here's how you can do attribution and here's how you know what your ROI is and the traffic that we're driving.
The direct mail space has been around a long time. In my last company, I had we built like a texting service on top of Twilio. This is in 2014. And we had, or 13, and we had like Yellow Cab was a client, and we also did a partnership with a direct mail company, and we were doing QR codes, text messages, and nowadays you could do this with Twilio itself, but back then Twilio was just an API, and it was much harder to do this stuff. These are big businesses. Like these direct mail, the company that we did business with, I think they did $100 million a year. They were owned by a family. It was one guy and his son who owned it, and they're probably bought by private equity or something now. But big businesses. They're very heavy in terms of capex. Like they had a lot of equipment, big facilities. But they kind of turn through things. And so it's a competitive kind of lower margin space. Direct mail is, and you're not directly in direct mail, but you're adjacent, you're in the space, and you're going up against players that, this robotic stuff is not like, you don't have a patent on it, right? You're like buying it, that there are others doing it. So how are you able to get clients, retain them, and then build up a business in a space that's pretty competitive and is fairly evolved?
Yeah. So that's a great point. And actually, when I talk about what our business does, I actually don't call it direct mail because the product is so different, right? So, direct mail is what I would consider anything that you consider like junk mail, right? Like the mass marketing mail that you get and you kind of like toss. So when we're talking about like mail like this that actually like lands on your doorstep and is a nice handwritten note, it looks completely different than what you would typically get as mass mail. So here's kind of like an example of like what we do, right? So it's number one, it's a very specific niche within direct mail. That's number one. Number two, because it's so personal and personalized, the response rates and the ROI that you get is dramatically different. So on average, our solution performs about 11 times better than direct mail. So anybody that's out there that's doing direct mail currently, whatever the response rates or conversion rates are, you can see an 11x improvement if you use something like our product. So yes, there's a lot of kind of incumbents out there that do what I would consider just general mass direct mail. But what we're doing is really focused on specifically the handwritten note aspect of it, which performs a lot better. So that's number one. And then to your point too, the best thing you can do to keep customers around and customer retention is to give them a good experience. So when I talked earlier about our service suite and kind of making a suite of tools that all work together to give you good visibility, give you good trackability, and to integrate with your systems exactly where they are, so you don't need to go and log into another dashboard. Those are kind of the reasons why our customers stick around, because most of these other, direct mail houses are built in such a way that you really need to use them as a platform. And some are actually still, you're uploading lists and you're kind of sending things over with like a FTP server. So we're really designed to be integrated directly into your marketing suite. And you really use us like like a digital tool, right? That was the whole idea with IgnitePost is you don't really need to be on IgnitePost to use it. So, we have integrations with things like HubSpot and Salesforce and Klaviyo and, you name it, go high level, where you can, if you have all of your marketing, all of your flows and everything operates right there under that umbrella, we integrate right there, right along with everything else that you're doing. And you can actually craft these really perfectly timed and crafted moments that really drive people to action. And so that's kind of where the power is when you're just plugged in and you just become part of their marketing system, then that becomes very, very sticky. And that's kind of how we've grown the business is, every single person that becomes a customer that signs up with us gets a personalized onboarding session where we go through and automate and integrate anything they want. And it's custom to that specific customer. And when we give them a really great experience all the way through from the first time they contacted us, all the way through setting everything up for them so that it's really hands off, we find that our customers stick around, for a super long time.
But how do you get the customers to start? Like, how do you get them up front?
So our best method is honestly using our own product. So we send campaigns every single month where we actually just reach out to folks that we've identified as good, ideal customers. We literally send them a handwritten note and then do a bunch of follow-up. We've got a team that will send a handwritten note. They'll call them, they'll email them, and just kind of get them into a conversation. So that's the most common way that people find us. And then the other way is honestly just SEM, bidding on Google AdWords and folks that are searching for handwritten notes, handwritten mail, handwritten direct mail, and things like that. That's probably the second most common channel that people discover our service and find out about it. And then honestly, things like this. So I do a bunch of podcasts. I do a bunch of webinars. I sit on a bunch of panels. We've gone to different, I just got back from a couple of conferences in New York. So going there and just talking with folks and just getting the name out about the brand is kind of the third way that people really find out about us.
And bro, by the way, you know how I sent myself a free IgnitePost letter a minute ago? Well, I already got a call and a voicemail from
boom, there you go.
Silvana and a text
And a
message
text.
that says, check this out. I got to show you this.
She said, I want to confirm the address. It's like, well, I already sent it.
Can you read this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It says, hi, love you.
What?
Maybe a typo.
That might be a typo.
It thought my name was love you. And I was like, who's sending me I love you?
Is that the translation from the voicemail?
Is it? No, I think it's a text message. Let me see. Maybe. Anyway, it's hilarious.
That sounds like a voice to text
maybe it
from
is.
the voicemail.
Maybe it is. But I gotta say, your people are very on top of it. Really nice work. These robots, I've used these before, and to be honest with you, somebody noted, like, if you smudge it or whatever, like they can tell it's printed and not inked or it's not perfect. And that actually, I didn't realize how upset people would be by that. It's like a big violation of trust that people felt. Like I sent it to my family as a thank you card or something. I was like, oh, this is nice. I always forget to send these cards. Let's just automate it. And then they're like, oh, I got your something they said, like, I got your automated thank you message. It did more damage than not sending me anything. So I guess it sounds like with you use an actual ink or it smudges and it's like random, but that doesn't seem to be the truth for your competitors, which I think are even bigger. Like, so is there something special about your robot that these other competitors can't do?
Yeah. So number one, that's something that, again, I would put those kind of printed mailers that look like it's a handwritten font underneath that kind of category of direct mail. And to your point, that's totally right. So the equipment that we use is totally different than a normal shop would use to print out something like that. So at IgnitePost, we use all Bic ballpoint pens, real Bic ballpoint pens that will write out a handwritten note in an actual handwriting style. So this is not a font that we use. So all of the styles that we have are actually someone's handwriting that we have put on file with us. If we want to, you can actually duplicate your own handwriting so that the robots can mimic your own handwriting so that you can send mass handwritten cards in your own handwriting style. But to your point, there is a lot of trust that's lost if you use what I would call kind of like the more mass printed mail, right? Anything that comes out of an inkjet printer that looks like it's a handwritten font. Like that is the opposite, right? So that comes off as disingenuous of like, hey, not only did you try to make this handwritten, but I can 100% tell that this just got printed out of a printer. So it's kind of like a double hit. You know, with our solution, we actually do use a real Bic ballpoint pen. So like you mentioned, you can you can smudge the ink if you want. You can feel the indentation on the actual card.
These other companies build the same robot. That's what I understand. It's just cheaper to do. You're more expensive and they're just cheaper. Is that kind of the answer?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you want to go and like build a robot like this, you can do this, right? There's extremely inexpensive options on things like Amazon, right? The thing is, they're not built for high volume, high capacity, and to do this at like an industrial scale. So that's like the number one thing. And then the number two thing is the robotics, and that's the easy part, right? Once you have it, there's a whole element that comes to it, right? So there's actually running the robot, right? So because we run up to a lot of people that are like, well, I can just go get one of these robots and do it on my own. And we're like, okay, try it. In the past year, I think this year alone, we've probably signed up like 2 or 3 customers who have done that and then have come back to us and be like, nah, I need to use you guys. Well, because it's a pain to run. It's a pain. So you need a whole team to run it. Right. So it's still time consuming. So you have to invest in the robotics and all the materials. You have to invest in the team to run it. And then the timing aspect is really the thing that is the secret sauce. So like I talked about earlier, being able to plug this into an existing marketing flow where, you know, hey, I signed up for a demo and then the next day a handwritten note arrives on my doorstep. And then 2 days later, I get a text. And being able to craft that experience at scale, there's the whole timing aspect, which you totally lose if you need to do it yourself, right? So at the end of the day, that's really the power of the system, is being able to kind of plug this in to your existing tools that you're already using and do this at scale. If you're going to do it all on your own, you basically have to build the whole product just to use it yourself. So we have a lot of folks that kind of try to go that route and then end up coming to us and saying, hey, like, no, I need to use your service instead.
But how do you address the actually, I went on Amazon and I searched for they're all over the place. There's one for $199 that has 3.4 stars. There's one for $3,999, which is on sale right now with a coupon for $2,800. I've never seen
Snag it.
Yeah, it's a robot. I've never seen something that's $4,000 with a $1,200 off coupon. Like that's it does have 5 stars, but it's a lot of money, and it doesn't look like it actually uses a pen. Oh, I guess it does, but this is like a whole world I didn't really know.
Yeah.
Apply $1,200 coupon. I've never seen that on Amazon. That's pretty wild. So how do you kind of do you not encourage you encourage people just to do this for business, like you know, to Flavia's point, like you wouldn't want, like, people should not be using this to send to their spouse, right? Like it's
we have folks that do that for sure. You know, we have, so the business IgnitePost is mostly built for other businesses, right? That's where you're going to see that's where everything is designed for. So what we're talking about, designed to like be plugged into CRM systems and marketing automation tools. So really is designed for business, but we've also had a ton of consumers use us as well. We've have a lot of folks that are using us for things like wedding cards and wedding thank yous and follow-ups like that. We definitely have people that send just one-offs here and there, like to their spouse here and there. I'd say that's the more rare use case, but it happens for sure.
So how did you even get these customers to agree, like First Republic, right? I would think if people use this, they don't want to know that they use them, right? Like
they don't want folks to know that they use it.
Yeah, right? But you somehow got their logos on the website.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of like our agreements too. So we do a lot of case studies with all of our customers. You know, like I mentioned earlier, we do a custom onboarding with every single customer where we kind of set them up for success and make sure that everything is working as they want it to. So in addition to when somebody comes on board, making sure that, hey, getting permission to actually use their logo, we actually ask, because we have all of their data, can we put together case studies so that other folks know how you're using this product, what kind of results you're seeing, and kind of, you know, help share. You know, to your point, in terms of how do you get people to stay around and stick with you in terms of using your product, we do a lot of information sharing as well. So part of our service arm that we offer is a managed service component where somebody can just say, hey, I'm interested in using this technique. I want more sales, or hey, I need to retain more users. Here's where we're at. Can you help us? And we actually have a whole team that will help design creative, that will help craft copy, and will actually implement and automate your campaign and measure the results for you to get you where you need to be. So we take those insights and then share them with our other customers so that everybody can get better at once.
That's great. All right. Well, last question. Great business, by the way, is Last question is, if you could send a handwritten note to your younger self, what would it say?
Oh man, there are so many things. I don't know. How long is the note? Do I get like a note card
Well,
or I
it's
get like a
Ignite
novel?
Post.
It's on your
An
post
Ignite
side.
Post. I get one of these. Okay. All right.
Exactly.
Honestly, I would say, and this is kind of like a bigger learning that I've had over the course of, a few years running businesses is one, trust yourself more and focus more on the process and less on results. I think earlier in my life, I was much more result focused and less process driven. And as I have gotten older, as I have run a couple of businesses, as I've learned, I center more on being more process driven than results driven, because the whole idea is if you just focus on the outcome, you're going to miss a lot of learnings, because ultimately you fail a lot before you actually figure out what's going on and what's working. And I think earlier I was really focused on, I really just need results, and if I don't achieve those results, then it's like a total failure. Whereas now I kind of see it's like, all right, if I focus on the process, you can improve and change and update the process. And that's a much better way of going about things, because ultimately sometimes you can, sometimes you can't ultimately affect the outcome, but you can always affect the process that you're employing. So as I've gotten older, that's kind of, I think, probably the gist of what I would say in my message is, kind of believe in yourself and believe in the actual process and focus more on the process, and the results will follow.
It's a great message.
That's awesome.
Also, I also filled it out the same time as Flavio did and got the texts and the calls, and I had to tell her.
Oh, good.
I had
Okay.
to tell her to stop. I like, stop, text me. Yeah, that's the address. Please send it. But I think that it's very impressive to do the process, like to your point, those process elements, those automations, like making it good and making it work is tremendous and shows like an attention to detail that most people don't have. They skip right over it, right? They go right to the end result, to your point, or they think it's not important. But to your point, I think I feel the same way, that as I've gotten further in my entrepreneurial journey, those details matter a lot. And the details of how that process was done matters a lot. So kudos.
Exactly. Thanks.
I don't know. I still think results matter. So as we go to the life hack here, I don't know. We've done some hacks in the beginning, so feel free to skip if you don't have one.
Oh, I've got one.
I did this panel last night. It's a little bit of an insight. This VC I was interviewing was talking about what markets he invests in, and he used a lot of analogies that were really great. One of them is when he looks at a market, whether he thinks of entrepreneurs as surfers, and as the water is the market. And if the water is like a pond, so there's not like a lot of change, it's just like a pond, then you can't catch a wave. There's no point in building a startup there. So you have to go to where there's like a lot of change in the market. Even if it's a smaller market or a bigger market, what he cares about is that it's like very choppy. There's something AI or something really, really shaking it up. And that's where he looks for entrepreneurs.
Interesting.
All right, you go, Taylor.
Choppy. Okay, so mine is this. I think that I think we're killing our dogs with this terrible dog food we feed them. And
okay.
So that's my fun fact of the day. But so this guy wrote this book called Big Kibble, which I think is a tremendously great title for a book. It's like, forget big pharma, like usually focused on the stuff you're feeding your dogs. So he got my attention real fast. I did not read the book. All I read was the front. That's all I had to read, right? That's it.
Yeah, you just skim the back.
That's crap. Yeah, not the book, but maybe the book is. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the kibble
title,
the stuff is great title. But so my hack is that same guy started a business called Right. That's what makes it great. Just Food for Dogs. So they started here in Orange County, and they put,
Soccer.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And you go in there and you buy these. They're basically human quality. Like you could eat it. It's like human quality dog food. There's other ones too. There's like Farmer's Dog and all these other ones that are direct mail. But these are real retail stores. They make them locally. So they make the food, bring it in. And so we've started feeding Bagel, our dog, it. And I can't tell actually if it makes like a big difference, but it definitely makes me feel better. And so the feeling, because now every time you feed her a little kibble, you're like, man, it does feel a little cardboardy.
Gut microbiome
Exactly.
is just perfect.
Yeah. Just the other stuff, because we feed her like a mixture, because their stuff is really expensive, so you can't feed not. So my hack is to look into alternative. But then, by the way, we asked our vet, and we were like, so what do you feed your dog? And he was like, Purina. And we go,
But yeah,
right. And we're like, so should we? But like, what about Just Food for Dogs? He's like, yeah, that's pretty good. was like, well, but you don't believe it. Like,
Yeah, it's like, but you're not using it.
you're not using it. Like, he goes, well, we sell it.
Isn't this the vet that's owned by private equity though?
No, we got away from that. He actually,
Okay.
he's actually the owner. He's the owner of the vet.
Does the vet sell Purina
It's a great question.
dog food?
They sponsor him. Purina owns 10%.
Yeah,
Big Kibble's, coming after isn't that a great name? Big Kibble.
I love it.
What's your hack, if any, Arian?
Let's see. Honestly, I guess my biggest hack that I've done or learned recently is like the importance of actual in real life meetups and kind of communication. That's not something that actually earlier in my career, and actually honestly at IgnitePost up until this year, that we really put a lot of focus on. And this year we've started doing a lot more of, I have personally traveled around, one, to meet with our existing customers more, just kind of face to face, started doing more conferences like where I ran into you guys, and just the kind of like the difference that it makes of just being able to be in the same room with somebody and just in a more relaxed atmosphere, just kind of have a simple human to human conversation. I think that's kind of like a lost art that people just don't put a lot of focus on or focus into anymore. And for us, it's been very, very like transformational to be able to sit down with a customer in a relaxed atmosphere and just kind of talk about, hey, like, what are the things that are coming up? Like, what's top of mind right now? Just to get those kind of ideas that you typically don't get if you just schedule a Zoom call or do something like that. So, I think that's probably that's my big life hack, I guess, as of right now, is to do more of those in-person, face-to-face meetups.
This is the beauty of New York. New York does it better than
Exactly.
anybody else.
Are you in New York?
I'm in New York, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for coming on, Arian. Really, really awesome chatting with you.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been great. Like we mentioned earlier, if anybody wants to have a robot send them a free handwritten note, go to ignitepost.com, click on get a free sample, and we'll get one out to you.
Thank you for rocking with the homies. Taylor, Trusty, and Flavio. Seize the day, own it. Until next time, hold it down, hold it down. Hey.